welcome into a special spotlight on Fountain City Pro Wrestling. We have the Fountain City Pro cards here on Wrestling Spotlight. We are joined by one of the men in charge, one of the top men with Fountain City Pro, Chase. You know him from I-70 Hot Tag as well. Chase, we got a big show coming up Friday at the Ball Event Center, October 18th here in Kansas City. And Olathe, it is Wayward Son. And just want to know, what can fans see when they see Fountain City Pro Wrestling carrying on October 18th?
Yeah, no, I love the segue. I love the pun.
Yeah, we'd play the song, except it's a big rights fee.
Yeah. I think one of my videos got in trouble for it, but what people can expect to see is fun, entertainment, good wrestling, and a momentous occasion. Not very many times has there been a champion crowned in Kansas City. You look at all the other independent promotions and some throughout the years. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to make history. We're going to crown a champion on October 18th on Friday. So it's going to be an action-packed show. Real fun.
Yeah, first Fountain City Pro champion. It's going to be a matchup of a guy who was just on the channel, Camaro Jackson, the Grand Regent. There's a picture of him looking at his opponent. I got this at the last show, staring down All Steel Jay Fowler and Captain Midnight Guthrie, his manager, his advocate, if you will. I'm not sure how much managing he does, but going to be a big matchup between Camaro Jackson and All Steel Jay Fowler. And Chase, I wanted to play this clip from Camaro because he talked a little bit about, and I think painted the picture of what you said is one of the big keys, one of the things you get from going to see Fountain City Pro. Here's Camaro from last week's Spotlight.
I think for me, I think it's like that intimate and like that personable setting. Like with TV wrestling, you're not able to really interact with the wrestlers the way you want to on a personal level because it's chaotic. Like so many people, security everywhere. You can't walk up to Cody Rhodes like, "Hey man, I love you." You know what I'm saying? Like, you could at one point when he was on the Independence, but like, it's totally a different beast. But I think with the Independence, you're able to have those like intimate moments with others. Like I'm able to sit at the merch table and have a full blown conversation with someone about their day, like, if it was bad, if it was good. And just from that conversation alone, I may have, made a friend or may have felt better about themselves, from what they were prior to our conversation. So I think the difference is just like we're more more closer and more personable. Now, granted, on the TV level, sometimes like the superstars go out their way to be personal, be more intimate, but that's very hard because they're already busy doing a million and one things, and they try their best to cater to those fans. But like I think with us on the independent level, especially in the Midwest, especially in Missouri, especially in St. Louis and Kansas City, with the rich professional wrestling history, we're able to kind of channel that lineage, man. So like for me, it's always it's the intimacy with our fan base. It's that personality, that personable relationship. You know what I'm saying? So like that's how I do it.
I like that because I think he did a good job of summing it up because, I've said it a lot on the channel. And I think when you and I were on previously, that there's nothing against AEW, WWE, TNA. I mean, I just went ahead and got tickets to WrestleMania this year on the Priority Pass program because they were gone within about 4 hours. I mean, that fast, they're gone. And when you're at that level, you're in a 60,000 seat stadium, you can't get that up and close. I mean, at the Ball Event Center, really everybody is basically about a ring's distance away from the center of the ring. So it is a tremendous atmosphere. And you're right there. And like Camaro said, you can walk right up and talk to him during the break over at the merch tables if you get there a little bit before the show, and everybody's happy to talk with you. And there's definitely a community feel that you get when you go to the shows.
Yeah. No, the two things that you just talked about, Gerald, I mean, it's you think about wrestling on on that level, AEW All in Wembley, WrestleMania, whether it's, at Lincoln Field in Philadelphia, or I went last year at SoFi Stadium,
Hmm.
and there's 70 to 80,000 people packed into these arenas. And so wrestling is here again.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as, maybe it doesn't seem as mainstream as it did in the 90s with the Attitude Era. But man, if you don't think it's here, like, I got an 80,000 seat arena to show you that's getting filled out. And
Hmm.
man, how awesome is that for people who don't watch wrestling all the time, who aren't diehards? Because you're right, it is so intimate. There are people that, as a fan here in Kansas City, I walk in and I know there's people, I know some people by their first names. Some people who I've built relationships with, that I've gone to shows since NWL, the National Wrestling League in Kansas City back in
Sure.
2017. um and there's other people that have built relationships like that. Some fans that are closely knit into the wrestling, really passionate wrestling fans, they road trip together. They'll go to Macon, Missouri, and they'll go to St. Louis, and they'll come back here to Kansas City. They'll go to St. Joe. But what about the people who aren't wrestling fans, that don't know exactly what they're getting into? But then they come to an independent show like Fountain City, like Central States Wrestling, like St. Louis Anarchy, Journey Pro, whatever the case may be. They're coming to a show and they're getting what they see on TV or in that arena of 80,000 people on an intimate level. You get to see other things besides wrestling, entertainment wise, music, whatever the case may be. Um, it's a beautiful time to be a fan, to be Fountain City, to be Central States Wrestling, to whoever it is. I mean, this is where it should be. And
Yeah.
it's exactly what Camaro said. The reason why I love the independent scene is you get exactly what you watch on TV with the big guys. You get it on a personal, intimate level, where there's 300-400 people, and you guys can all go crazy. And after watching Camaro slap around Luke Langley or Heidi Howitzer, you can go to Camaro Jackson's table and talk to him on a personal level and talk about his day. So
Yeah. And you're seeing really good high level competition, and competition that's crossing over that generational line. Our guest this week on Spotlight is Gary J. And Gary J is part of a stable, kind of a faction, unsigned and don't care. And we're going to see a multi generational match of sorts, a master and a Padawan, as Gary J is going to be facing off against Anakin Murphy. And it's the third matchup between these two. And Gary talked about how, hey, I love him, but I want to see him be better. It's like he's saying, I want you to embrace your anger. Maybe it's more of a Sith master and apprentice, because he's wanting him to embrace his anger and take a hold of the dark side. So I think we're going to see a pretty intense matchup between a couple of guys who are both, just so you know, you're not getting low level pro wrestling. Both of these guys made it onto the list of record for the top pro wrestlers of the year. They're both members of the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500, which just recently came out. And, that's got to feel good too, to know that you're putting on a show with not just one, not just two. I mean, a lot of independent companies would be thrilled to have a wrestler on the list who was in the Pro Wrestling 500. You have multiple people that are on it.
Yeah. You know, and it's always funny. You know, I look at things a lot differently. Going from a fan to a promoter. So I look through things through a different lens than I did when I was a fan. And you know, when I was like kind of started getting into the promotion or promoting side last year, the top 500 came out, and you know, I was like, does anybody really care about that list? Let me tell you something. I can't remember who said it on social media, but it was the perfect thing. It was, if they tell you they don't care about that 500 list, they're lying to you, because they care about
They
that
care.
500
Yeah.
list. And why wouldn't they? It is one of the biggest publications of professional wrestling, and you are getting on a list that everybody across the world is going to see. And somebody, I don't know how it goes. I'm not real privy to it, but there is somebody or a committee of people that voted you out of tens of thousands of people that go wrestle, no matter if they're wrestling for GCW on, you know, on Trill TV, or they're wrestling in front of 50 people. Gerald, somebody chose you to be in the top 500 of all the guys and women and everybody in between in the world. So if anybody says they don't care about that list, they're lying. They absolutely do. And
Absolutely.
talking about the people that are on our show that are on that 500 list, I'm biased, Gerald. I think some of them should be higher, but that's awesome. It really is. That's all I care about. You know, one of the things I tell everybody is there's not a whole lot of money in being an independent wrestling promoter. I'm not quitting my day job anytime soon. I still work in sales, my guy.
Sure.
But
Right there
one
with
of
you.
one of the most rewarding things is to think, man, who can I put out there in front of people that was not on the 500 this year, that 1000% deserves to be on that top 500 list, and they're going to be on it next year. That's cool to me. So, you know, like I said, when I was a fan, I was always like, you know, who cares about those top 500 lists, or who cares about the star ratings or whatever, you know? But now it's like, hey, man, if I can get somebody on that list, or if I can help somebody get exposed to that list, that's cool. So,
Yeah. Well, what makes Gary J and Anakin Murphy stand out to you? Because, you know, out of all the wrestlers out there, you picked them, and I think Gary has a unique status where he started out he was in NWL,
yep,
and he's been one of the key guys in Anarchy. This is a guy who's had matches in Ring of Honor. He's traveled all around the country, and
yeah,
he brings
all around the
a
world.
pretty intense style to the ring.
Yeah. And that's what it is. When I very first saw Gary J, I think it was 2008 or 2009. And what I have grown to love about Gary J is we know what it is. It's a scripted thing. You know, no, we don't use the F word, but it is scripted, and these are two individuals going out and performing in front of us. When you
Hmm.
watch Gary J, though, Gerald, uh, Gary J helps suspend that. I could watch a Gary J match and go, I think he's really trying to kick the holy crap out of this person that he's wrestling against. And you know, I could say so much more about Gary J, the person behind the curtain. I could talk for days about that, but the guy in the ring, it makes you suspend belief that this isn't a real fight, that he's not really trying to kill the person that he's in the squared circle with. And Anakin is the exact same. He is a mirror image of Gary. They both, I mean, it doesn't matter if there's 20 people or there's 200 or 2,000. Gary and Anakin will put on a show for those people and make them suspend belief that this is a scripted show. They're going to give people their money's worth.
And I've seen a lot of growth in Anakin Murphy too, because I saw one of his first matches 3 years ago, and he was trying. He was out there really working it, but just the move set, the fluidity. I mean, you can see how much work he's put into it because he's a really good, fun competitor.
A little bit of a curtain pull for you. I watched last year at St. Louis Anarchy. It was Circus Maximus, and it was Gary J versus Anakin Murphy in a match. Mm-hmm. And the match ended with Gary beating Anakin, and then Gary got attacked by returning Mike Outlaw, and they moved the story on with Mike Outlaw and Gary J. But Anakin cut a promo after that I thought, man, give this kid a microphone every time. And he cut a promo after the match, talking about Gary. And when Fountain City Pro came around, I was like, I want to revisit this. I want to revisit this history, this feud with Anakin Murphy and Gary J. And because I didn't feel like there was closure to it last year.
Yeah, I think it's settled.
Yep. So we gave them an opportunity this year, and like you said, this is the third go around. This is the last one. No holds barred.
Well, and I think you're going to see a little weaponry involved and some outside of the ring action. I mean, we already saw a couple of Canadian destroyers outside of the ring during the last matchup. Now, another matchup that I think is going to catch some people's attention, a couple of guys that have really broken through, I'd say, to the top ranks of independent wrestling. The Warhorse with a different personality. This isn't the Warhorse you saw wrestle Cody Rhodes for the TNT title on AEW Dynamite. He's now calling himself the Commissaire and is the king of nihilism, Jake Parnell. So much different than the hard-rocking Warhorse who resembled the Ultimate Warrior. And he's gone up against the Spotlight, Logan Knight. Both of these guys in that PWI 500 as well. What are we going to see in this matchup? Because you got a couple of different personalities going at it.
Yeah, no. The Spotlight, Logan Knight, has been wrestling for a short period of time. But he was voted Oklahoma's best male wrestler of the year last year. And nothing against the Oklahoma wrestling scene. I want Logan Knight to expand out of Oklahoma. I want people to see what I see for Logan Knight outside of just Oklahoma. Because I don't feel like the past few years that he's gotten the exposure that he deserves. So we bring him to Kansas City. We align him with Stormy Renee. When him and Stormy pitched the idea of Only Friends to us, I fell in love with the idea. Not verbatim, but a summary of what they described is kind of like a more family friendly Team Bussy, which just imploded. If you've been keeping up with GCW,
on the GCW, Effie and Alley Katz, sure.
Yeah, they so that was their pitch to me, and I was like, I love it. Let's run with it. And the Kansas City crowd. I mean, Logan works with a promotion from Wichita, Kansas, who runs shows every blue moon in Leavenworth. So Kansas City had no exposure of Stormy Renee and Logan Knight, and we bring them into Fountain City Pro, and I mean, the first show in March 8th last year or this year, Light It Up, they hit the curtain for the first time, Gerald, and the crowd goes crazy. They're immediately the top baby faces. So I thought, okay, I'm bringing in Jake Parnell. I wasn't sure exactly who I wanted to put him against, and I thought, all credit to Jake Parnell, who started with Journey Pro. Well, Journey Pro was one of his starts for his career, and so we've watched him go from Jake Parnell, the Warhorse, to the headbanging, metal clanging ruler of all ass Warhorse, the 2019 Independent Wrestler of the Year, to kind of hitting a slump, because after wrestling for the TNT Championship against Cody Rhodes on Dynamite, this guy's he's doing everything. I saw him in LA for Mania. I see him in St. Louis all the time, whether it's Glory Pro or St. Louis Anarchy. And it's like,
Chicago style.
And Jake said it himself. What more do I have to do to get people's attention? And that's where the nihilism character came from. He took the headbands off. He took the face paint off, and he said, it doesn't matter. No matter what I do, it's just not enough. And so you've got these two polarizing characters, the spotlight, so much positivity, only friends, against, nothing matters. The king of nihilism, the Warhorse, Jake Parnell. So I was excited for this. I thought this is not going to be the last time you see Jake Parnell in Fountain City. But I thought, bringing him back to Kansas City. The last time he was in Kansas City was July of 2022. It was a Journey Pro show called Raytona Beach Bash. It was outside of a bar in the end of summer, and he had a one-on-one match with the Journey Pro champion at the time, Christian Rose, and that was the last time Warhorse has been in Kansas City. So this match I'm super, super excited about. I was very, very happy we got to do this.
Yeah, that's a big matchup of a couple of people that are moving up the ranks in a little bit different way, very different attitudes. Now, the match that I also wanted to talk about, because it's being brought to you by the Wrestling Spotlight, it involves a member of the Premier, SK Bishop, seen there with his partner, Campbell Myers. And they got involved at the end of the match with Logan Knight and ended up kind of getting broken up by a Stormy Renee appearance. So that sets up the match on this show. SK Bishop of the Premier taking on Stormy Renee of Only Friends. How do you see this matchup going? Because a little bit of a unique take on pro wrestling. We get the intergender wrestling. You don't see it too often on WWE or AEW. A little bit more on TNA, but it's going to be just a straight out match between these two. And, I'm going to go ahead and favor Stormy. I think she has a shot to win this one.
Yeah, first off, I want to talk about how Fountain City Pro is open, more than open than intergender wrestling. I think that as we grow in a society, I think things like this become more open, because it's not. I think 4 or 5 years ago, Gerald, I would have been opposed to it, but the way that it was brought to me, kind of opened my eyes and opened my my mind to it. And like we've talked about, we know what pro wrestling is. It's a show, and intergender contests say, hey, Stormy Renee can go with SK Bishop. Heidi Howitzer can go with Camaro Jackson. and is just as good of a performer and can hold their own in the ring with Camaro Jackson and SK Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
So, while Stormy's counterpart in Only Friends is taking care of business against Jake Parnell, Stormy Renee is going to get a small little bit of revenge, if she can, on the Premier, who have run a little bit of amok in Fountain City for the past few months. They showed up uninvited back in May at Bombs Over Ball. They had a tag match against the main attraction, Team Double Stuffed, and they have been antagonizing and poking the bear at Only Friends. So it is only a matter of time. So this is just the first stepping stone to eventually, hopefully, Only Friends versus the Premier. One of the new upcoming tag teams to an established tag team that has done a little bit of running amok themselves in Kansas City. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also want to give a little bit of acknowledgement, a little bit of love to Logan Knight too, because he made news on a national level for being one of the wrestlers that stood up to state commissions banning any kind of intergender matchup, and has really put himself out front of it. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, because it's kind of hard to take a stance knowing that, hey, I'm taking a stance that may not be popular with everybody, but I believe this is right, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And
yeah, absolutely.
he's done that and has been an advocate for it.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Gerald. He made national news, or it made national news when AEW came to town.
Yeah, it was Nyla Rose.
And Nyla Rose, and and to each his own. Everybody was just going to go, okay, well, AEW just doesn't have to wrestle in Oklahoma anymore. And Logan said, no, like, this is my home. This is where I live. And it's 2024, guys. It's time. The athletic commission has no business. They do have a little bit of business. There is some good. I want to say this before I completely bash athletic commissions. There is some good that the athletic commissions does, making sure that people are safe health wise, blood and all that stuff. Making sure that people are
Sure.
Safe health wise before they perform in the ring. Absolutely should do that. But as far as trying to place bigotry in professional wrestling because you don't believe that you don't acknowledge somebody who's comfortable in their own skin, in our LGBTQ plus friends. I love that Logan Knight said, hey, even if it's just me that shows up to this meeting, I'm going and I'm going to say something. And then afterwards, taking a stance and saying, hey, I will no longer wrestle in my home state of Oklahoma until the athletic commission changes their ways. So that's awesome to me. There's very few times in this business, Gerald, that you'll see people you'll see people agree with on one thing. And so I was happy to see that Logan stood by his guns and stood by his word.
Yeah, and put himself in a position where it actually could cost him. It was a really commendable move, and I think it ties into to the personality, right? Because hey, we want to have fun. I'm for everybody. He's the good guy. I mean, there's not much more of a natural move you can make than okay, hey, this person's getting beat up. I'm going to go ahead and step in there. I mean, that's the true babyface move, right? Well, hey,
Absolutely.
what other matches are you looking to give a little bit of a mention to as we're running down the time here?
Yeah, no. The other one I would there's a couple of different ones. Our friends ACFC, who we saw tag team with Heidi Howitzer at the first show to take on Tootie Lynn, Moses, and Raheem De La Suede. ACFC are going to go against Ray Leon and a mystery partner of his choosing.
Okay.
If you've gotten to know Ray Leon, you would know that he's very full of himself and he's a little arrogant. So it's going to be really hard for Ray Leon to find somebody who can coexist with him on that level. And those guys have a lot of history together, being from Central Kansas. The other one, the main attraction, Team Double Stuff, they're going to be in action against the new debuting tag team in Kansas City, Team Chonkla Violence. They've wrestled in Rocky Mountain Pro in Colorado, also in Central Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. They've been all over the place. So I'm very, very excited to introduce them. They play bad guys very, very well. They're very good at what they do. Of course, our one of our other sponsors, as well as Wrestling Spotlight, is Guys Snacks, and the Guys Invitational, which we will have at every single show. So I like to use that match as an opportunity to introduce people and give people opportunities that the fans aren't used to seeing. So that we'll have a lot of surprises. But one of the entrants that have been announced is Burt Cameron, and got a lot of great feedback from Burt Cameron's promo with his Muppet friend Dennis, them eating all the chips. And then one of the last ones I want to talk about is hasn't been officially announced as a match. We've been calling it a confrontation between Midnight Guthrie and Nick Chin. This has been going on since the first show, because as people know, the first show main event was Jay Fowler and Camaro Jackson. And then now we're closing out the same way we started in. And in that first contest, Nick Chin was the official for that. And Nick Chin tried to call it fair and square down the middle. And Midnight Guthrie decided to get involved. And then Fowler gave the Fowler slam, which is the angle slam, to Nick Chin. And we've just been off to the races ever since. And there has to be a stopping point. The last show, Midnight Guthrie threw a fireball in Nick Chin's face. So enough is enough. We're gonna put those two in the ring, and we're gonna see what comes of it. So we're either gonna end this with a handshake or end this in blood. So which is how every great wrestling story is.
Sure. I don't see it ending well for Captain Midnight Guthrie. I'm not sure exactly what he's a captain of, but we'll let him decide that.
He says he's Branson's the champion of Branson, Missouri, which is weird. I've never ever seen Captain Midnight Guthrie on a poster or a billboard in Branson, Missouri.
Well, it's probably self-proclaimed, but hey, one other thing to mention here before we end the show up. Somebody in attendance, they're gonna get their own belt, Wrestling Spotlight Championship belt. We got this to give away during the show to one of the fans. I'll let you and the Fountain City Pro management team come up with a way to give it away. But one of the fans is going to get a nice leather Wrestling Spotlight Championship belt just for coming in. We'll come up with a good way to give it away. And that's coming up at Wayward Son Friday, October 18th at the Ball Event Center, right in Olathe. Really convenient to get to. It's in the Olathe Medical Center campus. And Chase, as we're winding it down here, just want to give a little promotion. If you just want to give the bullet points for the event, and then I'll ask you for your champion of the week.
Yeah. My bullet points are, it's going to be a fun show. Come as you are. If you, obviously, if you're watching Wrestling Spotlight, you're a wrestling fan. I would encourage you to bring somebody who may not be a wrestling fan and show them what we're about and show them what a good time looks like. I promise you it will be one of the best ways to spend your Friday night. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna tell a lot of good stories. So
excellent. And like we've been saying, October 18th, 7:05 start right there at the Ball Event Center. Super easy to get to in Olathe. And Chase, who's your champion of the week?
Champion of the week. It's got to go to Jimmy Uso. It does.
You get the big win.
Yeah, the Jimmy coming back and aligning with Roman, who I mean, had they not brought Jimmy back, Roman would be my champion of the week. It's been great stuff. I'm excited to hear yours, Gerald, because I think I might know who yours is.
I'm going to go with, just as a career achievement award, not that he needs any more awards, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. He's retired officially after being unceremoniously retired by Jon Moxley, winning the AEW championship one more time. We saw it coming when he came back and he had the match against Nigel McGuinness. Then he had the match against Okada. So he's kind of hitting the greatest hits and wanted to go out with a match with Jon Moxley. And now Jon Moxley is your AEW champion. And, I think it's still well deserved that Bryan Danielson had the chance to hold on to that title because not many wrestlers have done what he did, and he got through kind of the dark stage of pro wrestling when WCW was gone. Him and Nigel McGuinness made Ring of Honor a must watch, and then hit the pinnacle of success in the WWE and AEW. So the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, you get a Wrestling Spotlight Championship for weekly champion. I do want to give one other one a mention too, because she's really been grinding, getting back from her ACL injury, trying to be ready to go in ring shape before WrestleMania comes up. And, the road to WrestleMania is on, since they've already sold like 20,000 tickets. It's Brittany Brooks. Despite missing the back half of the year with an ACL tear, she made that PWI 500 we talked about, number 187. I guarantee you she'll finish higher next year. If you go to the website, WrestlingSpotlight.live, you can see the Brittany Brooks interview right there. And then it airs throughout the week on the channel as well. And then we'll have some Fountain City Pro interviews airing. Camaro Jackson, the Grand Regent, possibly your next and first Fountain City Pro Heavyweight Champion. And Gary J, the Stiff Robo Ginger. Chase, thanks a lot for joining us here. I look forward to seeing you up at the show.
Always a pleasure, Gerald. I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks. Have a good night. Stay tuned for more sports and entertainment right here on Wrestling